My name is Sheila Corona. Welcome to Sassy Seer Sheila and New Light Streaming Love, as this will be seen on both channels. Today we have a solar eclipse. I'm pretty sure it's already passed. This is by AstroButterfly, Solar Eclipse in Aquarius, the exit from the labyrinth. On February 17th, 2026, we have a new moon and annular solar eclipse at 28 degrees Aquarius. This is the first eclipse of the season, so we are officially entering the eclipse portal. And this is a North Node eclipse, which means it's designed to move us forward and out of familiar patterns, pushing us along our evolutionary path. The solar eclipse in Aquarius is tightly square Uranus at 27 degrees Taurus. This aspect is the defining feature of the eclipse and holds the key to understanding what kind of shift this lunation is asking for. At the solar eclipse in Aquarius, something will break free. And she has in parentheses Uranus square. But what? Solar eclipse square Uranus in Taurus, the Minotaur, and the Labyrinth. Uranus in Taurus takes us to the myth of the Minotaur, who was born into confinement and trapped in an elaborate labyrinth. What is a labyrinth? Fundamentally, it is a system, an elaborate design with its own internal logic, meant to keep us inside for as long as possible. At a psychological level, a labyrinth offers the promise of safety. Stay inside the walls, keep busy with iterations, adjustments, trials, and errors, all under the assumption that we are trying to find our way out. But are we really? The labyrinth becomes a metaphor for belief systems, coping strategies, narratives we repeat to stay safe, and identities we build to manage uncertainty. Some of these narratives and identities are not even created by us. They're inherited. We're born into them just like our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents were, passing them down to us. These elaborate constructs made sense back in the day, in a world of constant danger, scarcity, instability, or threat. Structures that offer predictability and containment feel protective. But the insight Uranus squaring the eclipse helps us recognize is that the maze becomes real only because we believe it is. And after all, haven't we been taught that it is? Solar eclipse. What is invisible becomes visible. And the solar eclipse in Aquarius comes to reset this perception. Eclipses, by design, are a role reversal. What was invisible becomes visible, and what was visible becomes invisible. In this role reversal, we're invited to step into the role of witness and look at the situation from the outside. From that vantage point, it becomes clear that there is no maze, that all of the labyrinth, all of the walls, all of the complexity is just a mental construct. And if we want to exit, we don't have to engage in more grinding, more hustling, more work, or trying harder. The breakthrough can arrive as a sudden shift in perception. Oh my God, I know this is true. This is so true. The maze was never an external reality. It was built in good faith to protect us, but over time, it became our prison. Solar eclipse in Aquarius, the exit from the labyrinth. Just like the bird that suddenly realizes the door of the cage was always open, the solar eclipse in Aquarius comes with a breakthrough in perception that we can simply choose to exit when we've outlived the cage's protective function and the illusion of comfort. Instead of keeping ourselves busy and running corridors, we ask, why have I built this? And why am I still here? The problem is not the laboring itself, but confusing these survival structures with reality. At the solar eclipse in Aquarius, square Uranus, the exit from the labyrinth does not come from trying harder. The exit comes from recognizing the pattern itself. When we are no longer inside the matrix, when we see the structure from above, we can choose to step out of the logic entirely. Solar eclipse and Saturn conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees Aries, Genesis. The solar eclipse is just a few days before the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, and I highly recommend my last recording from AstroButterfly about just that. February 20th, when Saturn and Neptune meet at the 0 degree of the zodiac, a new myth is seeded. Before that, the solar eclipse in Aquarius on February 17th, which is today, helps us loosen our grip on outdated myths that no longer reflect who we are becoming. There's something that needs to break free before we can move into the new era. Because the type of story we've been living by so far is no longer the type of story we're meant to live going forward. If something gets unsettled, it's because it no longer belongs to the next chapter. To understand what's unfolding, we don't need to figure out which house the eclipse falls in or what Saturn-Neptune activates in our chart. This kind of linear cause and effect thinking can keep us stuck inside the maze. What we do need is to tap into the emerging myth that is being created right here, right now, this week. And she goes on to speak about her Genesis 2-day event. I spoke about this in the last one. There is a link here in this, and I will be, of course, as always, including a link to this article. And if you find yourself drawn, I highly recommend. I've never had the wherewithal to attend one of her events or her classes, of which she has many. And but if you yourself have the wherewithal and you go to this 2-day event called Genesis, I would love to hear from you about your experience, and either comment here or contact me by email, consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com. And I would love to chat with you about it. Until we meet again, I hope that you will move towards that which brings you joy in every moment that presents itself to you. I always say it's a matter of your perspective and your perception on your perspective. Because I know for my own self, when I think there's not a joyous way forward, if I breathe, take a look, another perspective, I usually do find a more joyous way forward. Until we meet again, my friends, be well.